So I thought I'd do a video about how I reconcile changes between what do they know and what do they know theme, or Alaveteli core and what do they know theme. Most of it's written down in this wiki page, but I don't actually know if anyone is using the scripts that are written to do this, so I just thought I'd show it because it might make it a bit easier to understand what's going on if you've never used it before. So the first step is basically get everything up to date locally. So we'll do that now. So usually you'd fetch origin, and then mine's already up to date, but you would like rebase origin develop, and then check out what do they know, and then rebase origin what do they know. So that gets core up to date. Actually it says master there, but we won't actually need that up to date for this. So need to do the same on what do they know theme. So I switch my tmux session over to that. So again, fetch from origin and then rebase origin master. Again, mine are up to date because I've just done it basically, but develop. So check out develop, and then rebase origin develop. So the next thing to do is ensuring what do they know theme develop is up to date with what do they know theme master. There's a link there to the GitHub compare view, but you could also check this locally. And then if it's not, just merge master into develop. So the next step is to switch your current theme to what do they know theme, which is the usual theme switcher commands. And then you want to get develop checked out in both Alaveteli core and what do they know theme. So I'll just make sure I've got those set up. So check out develop. So the next thing you want to do is SSH to Vagrant, or open a Vagrant terminal if that's where your dev version is. And then we want to actually reconcile the views between Alaveteli core and what do they know theme. So I'll zoom this window. So this uses two commands that, or scripts that Alaveteli has. First one is current theme, so that just prints out the name of the current theme. And then we put that, or use that as an argument to find, and then we kind of just find all the RB files and then call script diff-theme-override on each file. And we set the diff tool to vim with -d. So that will open each file that finds in a like split pane in vim. And then we can go through and resolve the theme. So we will paste that in there. So this picks up a couple of files which it shouldn't, so I'm just going to skip through those. It's the first time I've noticed having gone through this, so I'll have a look into that at some point, but you kind of get used to what looks about right and what needs changing. So in the first pane you get the file from Alaveteli core. I use the status bar so you can kind of see we're in the develop branch, and then the path is app-views moreinfo.html.erb, and then over in the right hand pane you get the core version. So here what you can see is that in Alaveteli core there's nothing in the file, and then in what do they know theme we've actually added an override. So that comes up in green, and then in core you can see that there's no lines, so it's just a bunch of red hyphens. So we know we want this override, so we can just quit both files. So let's :qa, and then it'll open the next file to look at. So again we can kind of look what has been changed. So you can see on the right hand pane in what do they know theme we've got a big bunch of additions. So when doing this you kind of just need to look at each override and see if it makes sense. you get used, as you go through this quite often, you get used to what should be there, so you kind of remember which overrides are intentional. So that one is. So again, we can just quit both of those and open the next file up, and then again we've got some extra analytics code and extra JavaScript, so we can quit that. Same here, and some additional credits, so we can skip that. And most of these we can skip. Like I said, you kind of get used to sort of knowing what you're looking for. So here we have some interesting overrides. Again, most of these won't have changed, but in the couple of commits that are new to develop. But we can see for some reason that the new line has been removed there in between those two divs where it exists in core, so we can just add that back in, and then that will resolve that change. So this time, because we've edited the file, we need to use wqa to write and quit both files. And then we've got an ICO link, so we can skip that. And skip that. So here, what this is kind of showing is that there's an override, but I think nothing has changed between them, so we can probably remove that. In diff mode, it kind of wraps lines, so you can just use your normal navigation keys to open them. So I think if you hit J, or is it? Oh, sorry, it's L. Will open the folded sections, and to me, that looks identical. So we can probably remove that override. So I guess we could shell out to git remove, and then copy this file path there, and then that should have removed that. I've not actually used remove during this process, but we'll give it a go. So quit that, and again, this has been resolved previously but not removed. So I'll just skip that and remove it later. So again, this is another intentional override. That's just the pop-up banner template, so that's intended to be empty in Alaveteli core unless we have a specific pop-up to display. This is the footer, so I kind of tend not to really pay too much attention to this unless I know we've made a footer change, because it's quite different in whatdotheyknow-theme. Likewise with the responsive header and front page. And so now we're getting into the help pages, and these are all effectively empty in Alaveteli core, and then they're overwritten by the theme, so most of these you can just skip over while resolving. So I'm just typing :QA pretty quickly for each file. Okay, so we've got through all the help pages now. So again, we can see another intentional override, so we can just ignore that by quitting both files. Again, here we've got another whatdotheyknow specific override, so we can quit out of that. Again, some more custom overrides. So just seeing what we've got there. Yep, so that is a template or placeholder file in Alaveteli core, which has got some overrides in, so we can ignore that. Right, so here is one of our first actual changes. So these are a little bit hard to spot, probably depending on your color scheme. You can see that this isn't the usual highlighting, syntax highlighting, and that just shows that the line, I guess, is still similar but has slightly different contents. So we can see in Alaveteli core we've used if feature enabled annotations, but in the theme we've still got the old Alaveteli configuration check. So what we can do to resolve that is copy in between the ERB tags, and then jump over here, select that text, and then paste the update over. Sometimes these sort of change color again to their normal syntax highlighting, sometimes they don't. It's sort of a bit weird, but once you've made the update, you sort of keep track of it. We can also see that there's been some custom classes added into these paragraph tags in the theme, so we can leave those. And then these all look like valid and intentional overrides. So now, again, because we've changed the file, we just write quit all. So here we've got something that's been missed in Alaveteli core, where we've made a change to the theme. So we need to make a pull request against developing core to add this in, which will probably be done by the time you actually watch this. So I'm just checking this override here, and it looks like we're just preventing the donate banner for pros, so that's all fine. So they look like some additional JavaScripts for the theme, so we can ignore those. So this, there's quite a lot of overrides on this for whatdotheyknow-theme, but what I did spot is that this uses an if feature enabled method or helper, whereas this still uses the old configuration check, so we'll just paste that over there as well, and we can then quit out of those two files. And then that's just an EU promo, so we can quit out of that. And same there. So here we just add, by the looks of it, some extra code for UK specific authorities because they get extra time, so you can ignore that. And that survey stuff. And again, school specific override, so that can be ignored. And there we go, we're done. So now when we go to develop, or in fact we can have a look at the status. So that removal did work. Oh no, so the removal didn't work, so we should do that independently. That's the first time I've done that, so I wasn't sure whether that was going to actually work or not. So if we view the diff, we can see that we've got that extra line break just to reconcile the views, and then we've used the feature enabled helper rather than the configuration call. So now we can just commit to those changes. then push to develop, and then if there's anything major you can create a pull request, otherwise you can just merge it into master. So once that's pushed, we can go and check on GitHub if we want. Oops. So you can see here the changes we've just made to resolve the theme with Alaveteli core. So we can check out master and merge, develop, and push that up. And then what we want to do is review the changes between what they know and develop. So I've already done this, so I can do this pretty quickly, but this is what we'll be merging the new code from develop into what they know. So this is basically what your deploy is going to be. So it's worth having a quick check through those to make sure nothing unexpected is going to happen when you actually deploy the code. And it's not. So we can go back to Alaveteli core and then check out what do they know and merge develop into that, and then push. And then that's us done. So we can just check that there aren't any changes. So that means now the what they know branch has all the code that develop has. So we can go and deploy what they know. Hope that's been sort of interesting.